Hi friends, welcome back. We're going to work on our hump jumper today, and if you already have a hump jumper, that's fine. You can still sew along with us to make this piece, and this will be your practice piece. This will let you know how your machine's going to work with this vinyl. It'll let you know your machine's capabilities. You can work out your tension, work out your needle sizing, what kind of foot is best for you. It's a small practice piece that you're not wasting a lot of extra materials. This is just that white strip off the end of Evelyn's vinyl. Like I said in the materials video, you might need to unroll your vinyl to find the other end. If you're not using Evelyn's, or you happen to get a piece that doesn't have this white strip, this is just about 1.5 inches wide, so you can just cut a strip of scrap vinyl, and you can use a 12-inch long roll or an 18-inch long roll. Either one will work just fine. And what we want to do is cut that into 6 pieces. So if you have a 12-inch piece, you're going to cut every 2 inches. If you have an 18, like mine is, you're going to cut every 3 inches. Alright, so you've got your 6 pieces. We're going to flip one upside down so that we have vinyl on the bottom instead of the felt side. And then you're just going to stack the others however you'd wish. So we get a sandwich here, and then make sure your top piece is the vinyl facing up. So on your sandwich, you should have vinyl on one side and vinyl on the other side, and it doesn't matter how the other layers lay. You don't have to be exactly perfect, it's just a practice piece. And we're just going to clip those together so they kind of stay straight for us. All right. So now we're going to see how our machine works with 6 layers. I'm just going to sew some straight lines back and forth. Once you get your tension correct and feel good about the needle size, you can start going around in rectangles. That way you can practice your pivot points, and then you'll just really be able to find out how this is going to work out for you. And then you'll be able to use this little piece as a hump jumper if you don't have a hump jumper. I have my walking foot on, and I have my denim needle in, and I'm going to use my top stitch length, which for me is a 3.5. I'm not using any particular seam allowance. I'm just making sure my foot is fully on the vinyl. This is my vintage Viking, so it's going to be kind of loud and clanky. I didn't do any back stitching there because, like I said, I'm just testing my tension. I use black threads, so hopefully you can see this is my top. And then this is my bobbin side. So my tension looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the needle size. I do think I'm going to go up to a 4 though, and test my top stitching at a 4. And I've got a little nest because I thought I clicked my foot down, but I didn't click it all the way down into place. So that is totally human error on my part. But once I did click it down, I've got good tension. And then on my top side, I like that 4 stitching. So for 6 layers, when I'm doing top stitching, I'll top stitch at a 4. And then for my construction seams, I'll probably go at about 2 3/4. I don't want to go all the way up to a 3. I think that's a little bit too long, but I'll just have to test it and see. And those won't be, when you're constructing, what I mean by constructing is when you're sewing together with the right sides together to where you'll open it up. So generally your construction seams won't be on 6 layers. So if we were opening this up, we wouldn't have this many layers at one time for a construction seam. But most, I believe all of these patterns that we're doing, I'm trying to think if there's any, I don't believe there are any construction seams. They'll all be raw edge top stitching seams. So make sure you're happy with not only how the top stitch looks, but the tension of it, the spacing of it, how your needle is making the holes, because it's all going to be pretty stitching. And what I mean by pretty stitching, I mean you're going to see all of your stitching. Nothing will be covered or hidden later. Now that I got those together, I'm just going to unclip that, and then I'm going to stitch all the way across, and just to get a nice tight bundle and just to practice my stitching a little more. Making sure my foot is clipped all the way down. If you have an automatic machine that you're using, you might not have to worry about that. I do have a modern automatic machine as well, so going back and forth between the two, sometimes I forget which one I'm using. So there, that is a perfect. So I'm using a stitch length of 4 on my 6 layers of vinyl with my walking foot, my denim needle, and then I'm just using an all-purpose cotton thread. Mine that I'm using today is by Connecting Threads, and it's just the cotton. It's not mercerized, it's not, oh, the word is escaping me, the kind that is waxed. It's just the plain cotton thread. And then there's my bobbin stitching, nice and even, to where you can't even tell, other than my nesting issue, you can't tell which side is top and bottom, and that's how you know that you have a perfect tension. I'm just going to go along and finish up a couple more strips. And you can absolutely do everything I'm doing on a domestic machine, just using the right materials, meaning the correct foot, the correct thread, the correct needles. You might have to go slower, you might have to hand crank in a couple places. You should be able to do this on a modern domestic machine just fine. I will say, however, vintage machines are constructed out of all metal parts. They don't have plastic parts like modern machines, so they tend to continue to drive that needle down no matter what you do, where your modern machine will like stop and flash and be like, no, you can't do that. Something's wrong, fix something. Not saying that anything may not be wrong in your all metal machine, but I'm just saying it kind of continues to drive. They are sturdier, and I do use this one exclusively for bag making, vinyls. I can do corks on my domestic machine, just the same as fabrics, but I really prefer this one for vinyls and bag making. So now we have our little practice piece. We're happy with it. If you're not happy with it, you can cut another section and try again. And then this piece can serve as a hump jumper, to where when we get to some of those thicker pieces to where we may have up to 6 layers, we'll be able to slide this guy right under the back of our foot. And then when we are stitching those 6 layers, now our foot is nice and even. A lot of times people will think that, oh, my machine isn't built for this, I can't do this. And what the problem may be is that, see how that foot tilts? Is when you're putting those thicker items under there, your foot is going to tilt like that. And it's going to try to come uphill. And your foot doesn't like that. You're preventing the fabric from going under the foot. And that's when your needle sits and goes in one spot. So if you even out that foot on those tough areas and try again, you might be surprised that, oh wow, now it's working beautifully. A lot of times that is the issue, is that your foot isn't even. And that's why we created this piece, or that's why we use a pre-made hump jumper. You'll see this one's like thicker on this side and thinner on this side to account for different materials. You can also get an item, it looks like this, but it's a little bigger. It's called a jean in the jig. And that's for thick denim seams, which would be perfect for working with your vinyls. But again, this little guy, I like this better in these situations than this, especially because I can make it the thickness I'm going to be working with. So you can make one of these in a 6 layer, a 4 layer, a 2 layer, and just kind of keep them around for working with these types of patterns, and it'll always be the thickness you need. Plus, with it being sort of this size, you get a nice stability back here, and as you're pushing your item through, that's just going to push this back out of the way. Whereas this guy goes around your needle, so it's still in the back, but your needle's coming down here, but it still has these prongs and it can shift side to side. And you can maybe see some of those little dings and marks where my needle has hit it because it has shifted when I didn't expect it to. And this, without the prongs, is solely on the back, so there's nothing for that needle to whack on either side. So these are really handy. And then, like I said, a good practice piece to practice your tension. So that's all for our homemade hump jumper video. Let me know if you have any questions or if you need me to explain anything more clearly.